What up, YouTube? It's your boy Joe with Meteoric Serpents coming back at you for episode number 6 of the Colubrid Corruption Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in once again. As always, I'm super excited to be here. I've been loving doing this podcast so far. I hope everyone listening has been getting a lot of information about it. Tonight, we have a very cool guest, Mr. Kris Painschab from Badlands Herpetoculture. So it should be very good. He keeps a lot of cool species. We're going to get into it. As always, just some stuff to run through. As you can see, my social medias are down below. Morph Market, I do have some snakes available. If anyone is into Texas rat snakes, because obviously this is a Colubrid podcast, if you DM me and mention you're from the podcast and you're interested, I'll give you a discount. I'll give you a steal on them. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely let me know. Otherwise, I did just get my own square setup, square store. And I always mention I do have Meteoric Serpents t-shirts. I'm not wearing one right now, but if anyone is interested in one of those, feel free to send me a DM. Let me know. We can work that out. Also, I've been plugging it every week. If you guys want a diverse diet for your colubrids or for any species of snakes, definitely some arboreal stuff. I've been getting quail from Blake's Exotic Feeders. Been very high quality quail. About to start feeding some more of my collection. Some quail because some things are coming out of brumation, like some juvenile, not quite ready to breed stuff. So we're going to get that going. And yeah, so once again, Kris Painschab, Badlands Herpetoculture. Let's bring... Oh, actually, totally forgot. Let's see who's in the building today. Oh, boy. Didn't want to miss everyone. There's a lot of people here. Wiz, my dog, first one here. What up, bro? Thanks for being here. Jesus, thanks for being here. Mad Freddy, thanks for coming out. Let's see. Jason, good to see you again. Thanks for being here. Bosa, my guy, thanks for coming out. Mutant Geckos, what's up? Hope you're doing well. First time I'm seeing you here. Good to see you. Eric's More Factory, one of my local homies. What's up, man? Hope you're doing good. Let's see. DGB Exotics, another new face. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Ken, thanks for being here. The homie MJ, thanks, my dog. One who's been pushing me to do some good quality podcasts. Appreciate you, bro. Exotic World of Geckos. It was good meeting you last week in Orlando, dude. Didn't know you were local, so that was cool. Thanks for coming to the table and saying hi. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's have a good show, and let's bring on Kris. What's up,
baby?
man?
How we doing?
How you doing?
Man,
I'm good.
6 foot over, not 6 foot under. That's what Grandmama always told me. We're doing good.
That's good to hear, man. Good to hear. All right. So, as we got into this, 2 weeks in a row now, 2 podcast hosts. So Jake was last week, and you are also a member of the Herpetoculture Network. You do the show Corn Stars with Justin, right?
Yeah, Justin.
Palmetto Coast. Yeah.
Palmetto Coast Exotics.
You guys talk about a lot of corn snakes with people. So that's awesome. And I'm sure we could probably both talk each other's heads off. So that's what happens when you get 2 podcasters in a room. So yeah, definitely follow Kris. I actually forgot to put your your Instagram link in the description. I will do that after the episode's posted. But again, Badlands Herpetoculture, go follow him. A lot of cool species, a lot of cool pictures. So yeah, I always like to get started kind of asking, and I'm sure you've gotten this a million times, but how did you get into the reptiles? Where did everything start for you? Because I always do my background checking. I do some digging, and then I scroll through your Instagram a lot, and then I kind of found where it started. So if you can kind of get into that.
So my social media is not a good representation of where the reptiles really started. But I'm going to tell you right now, and everybody listening, anybody that knows me knows this, I suck at social media. I don't like being on it. I don't like posting pictures. I chat with my homies. We send funny memes and girls shaking their booties, and that's what we do, right? We get sucked in, and then you start doom scrolling. Anyways, but so when I was a little tot, I was maybe about 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. My mom brought home a turtle. I was into dragons and dinosaurs. I still am.
Yeah.
And she brought home a turtle's red-eared slider, and that was Sandy. Sandy died in 2019 in the freeze. My parents lost power,
Oh man.
and were without power for like 7 days. A lot of people died. Luckily, that didn't happen to my family members. But that big freeze in 2019 here in Texas was real crazy. It's February, and so that kind of kicked me off. I got some like newts or something, whatever happens when you're a kid. But what really hit me, because I'm probably a little older. Don't let the smooth taste fool you, Joe. I'm old man. But
How old is old?
I'll be 40 here in about a year.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit up there. But it'd be about 1998. I'm about 13 years old, and my dad had this guy working with him that was a reptile guy. I mean, just stinky, that 1998 fresh, just off the oil rig. I'm gonna get some albino Burmese pythons guy, and he had like an importing license or something, and he got a pair of Phelsuma, some gold dust day geckos.
Okay.
And happened to give them to my dad to bring home to me. And I had the absolute most like gangster, actually planted, like was bioactive before bioactive was a term for Gen Z, and UV lights, and I just kept them together. I still have the original book. Me and my dad went to the store and I bought a Phelsuma book.
Okay.
And it was like used, dude. It was like half price books had the book. Anyways, it's like one of those crazy things. Well, those geckos ended up breeding for me, and
Oh wow.
I produced a couple clutches of them. And in that time, I met a local guy. His name was Carl Vargas, who was super just like saw this kid that was excited about it, bought the babies from me for like $15 a piece. I mean, I had to figure out how to incubate hard shell Phelsuma, which is difficult. They're egg gluers, so you got to figure out how to go through all that. At this time, they haven't like overtaken Florida, you know what I mean? So
Right.
not everybody knew about it, and so it was this huge journey of like trying to figure this species out, right? And I had really good success. Well, Carl from South Tex Gex is the guy that originated the bacon line of gargoyles. He originated the granite line of leeches. He produces hundreds and hundreds of leeches. So like I had this like gecko father, right, that like taught me all this stuff. Well, I wanted to get into snakes, and the parents were never going to let that happen. So we kind of just, I kept getting geckos, right? Like I started going to reptile shows maybe when I was about the second I could drive. I bought a vehicle when I was 15 because I had a work license, and I was working since I was 13, right? So I was one of those people that just always had a little bit of cash.
Yep.
And so, dude,
I'm with you there.
like just because you wanted stuff, right? And like for me, mom and dad ain't had no money, so I was like, well, if I can make an extra $50 and I save it for 2 months, maybe I can get some bearded dragons, right? I could put a cool 55-gallon aquarium in my room and have lights, and so I was breeding bearded dragons, leopard geckos, a couple different species of Phelsuma, and dude, I was loving it. I was kind of wholesaling all the babies because that just made sense, and I was a little bit more pocket cash, and I kind of told myself, hey, when I move out, I'm going to get a snake. And I did that. So when I was about 18, I moved out, and my first snake was a gray banded king snake.
Okay.
And I never tried to breed snakes. I probably bred geckos. I bred a couple different species of chameleons.
Okay.
I kind of stayed doing that until I was like, I went to college, got kicked out of college a couple times. That was fun. Didn't you go do that fun thing in your 20s, which is like ridiculous. And then kind of late 20s, I was like, all right, I kind of want to do this. I kind of want to start breeding some stuff. I want to have a collection. Me and my wife were serious at that point about trying to have a kid. And it was kind of a little bit before we found out my wife was pregnant. So my little girl just turned 7. So that would be about 8 years ago.
Okay.
I kind of was like, all right, maybe 9 years ago. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get a little more serious about breeding. I'm going to invest in a couple of higher end animals. So I got some bacon line gargoyle stuff from Carl.
Nice.
I got some leeches, right? Started breeding leeches. And it was a pretty special experience. One thing that was really special about doing that was it I knew that I wanted to breed snakes, but I knew that snakes were a larger time investment, right? There's not really many species of snakes you're going to get in and be breeding in a year or 2 years, even sometimes
Right,
three,
right.
4, 5. Some of the species I've had took 5, 6 years to breed. And that's okay. I knew that I had matured in my life, and I knew that I was ready to kind of be. Hey, huge shout out to Jason Keller saying I'm a terrible person. He's right.
By the way, chat, if you have any questions for Kris in the middle of this, put them in the chat, and we'll get to it when we have some free time for sure. We'll keep it on the side, but yeah, I always like to throw that in there. But keep going.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I'm producing some really nice animals. I started vending shows. We got a local show, so I'm vending a show twice a year. It's the only show I want to vend. But it was cool, man. Like, dude, going to the table. My brother gets into breeding geckos. He's breeding Azanthic and now Azanthic, lily white, cappuccino cresteds and stuff like that. He's both of us kind of had this plan. We're gonna fly under the radar, right? We're gonna vend our shows. We're gonna breed the species we like. I mean, we'll sell to homies, but like, I'm not gonna be the social media guy. I'm not gonna be posting a bunch on Morph Market. It just ain't me. And we both kind of knew that we were gonna do that. And he's really done a good job of maintaining that. But let's see. So I started breeding. I bred some corn snakes, and at this point, I'm building my collection. Right, I had a list, like an actual list.
So I also wanted to say, even like your social media stuff, it went very. I did scroll down this far. It was like all geckos for a little bit, and then, as you said, it transitioned. So then you started getting the snakes. So where did that start coming in? Yeah. So where did the snakes kind of start for you?
That's like 6 years ago. I get serious into snakes. Right. Maybe 7 years ago, I produced my first corn snakes. I don't even know if I posted a picture of the clutch.
Gotcha.
I still have one of the snakes that I still have the first snake I ever hatched.
Nice.
And so it was kind of cool because at this time, in that kind of 6 year ago window, we're selling gargoyles, these bacon line gargoyle geckos for enough money to pay my mortgage for a year. Right. Like,
awesome.
You sell out a table. Dude, you're golden, right? So yeah. I literally, at that point, made the decision, and we're going to talk a little financial about this, and it's something I'm a proponent of, because people always kind of reach out and go, hey, how'd you do this? I'm very lucky. I have a very good job that I've worked at for a long time, but that's not what got me here. It was actually just taking small amounts of the investment that I was putting in and saving and saving and saving. Every single rack, every single animal, every single cage has been paid for by animals, and we actually maintain our own business account that hand, like everything. Like my wife has never seen me. I don't use the debit card for a snake. I don't use cash for a snake. It's all handled essentially digitally. And that's not true. I have used cash because you got to pull cash and go to Daytona and buy something stupid. But yeah, so I maintained it through that, and slowly but surely just built up. I knew the kind of complexes that I wanted to focus on. A lot of Pitchophis, right? Like, me and Pitchophis are homies. And there was also a lot of species I knew I wanted to keep, raise from hatchling, breed, and then not maintain, which is maybe an odd concept for some people. But like,
so just to get your own experience, that hands-on with that species, kind of to say you did it, also because you like them, but yeah.
Also, I'm a completionist, man. Right? Like, I got to catch every damn Pokemon, right? I got to have all the rings. You know what I mean? Like, I'm that guy that's got to sit back and someday say, hey, I bred every species of Pitchophis, right? I bred every species of Mexicana, right? Like, I've done it. Now, there's always exceptions, like certain things are not going to happen, but you kind of find the longer you're in this hobby, the more connections you make, those things come up,
100%.
Sometimes you end up with some Pomolis, some Pitchophis Pomolis, and you're like, whoa, this was a species that wasn't even on my list, and now I've got it. And so that's kind of how that matured. Now, I think that maybe that was probably a really long-winded answer to like, I had a turtle, right? But
no, that's all good. I like hearing it because everyone's got a little bit of a different story, so I'm always curious to see how people came about. And you told me before, so you are down in Texas.
South Texas, yeah.
South Texas.
There's one more name I got to drop. So about 5-6 years ago, I'm a person that really truly believes in mentors and finding a good mentor. Even at my
Yeah.
old age, I know there's things I want to find mentors in. I want to find people that can help, somebody that can help answer my questions, somebody I can bounce my questions off of, whether
Yeah.
it be emotional, whether it be financial, whether it be reptile related, maybe hobbyist, maybe it's a work question. We
Yep.
don't always have those people in our lives, and somebody can use that as a source of, they'll get disgruntled, right? Like, God, I wish I had somebody to reach out to and ask. Well, spend some time and find that person, right? I have a personal financial advisor that I hired 5 or 6 years ago. They're not expensive. Anybody out there that's interested, you can do that. Usually, if you invest a small sum of money, uh, like $1,000, you can usually lock in a financial advisor for the rest of your life, as long as they're investing your money. But I met John Lasseter, who's a local legend. He's a long time, 40 years plus of experience, and me and him actually just hit it off and became great buddies, regardless of snakes. But he was kind of a colubrid master, and kind of knew all the tricks and all the ways around doing things, especially a lot of these Lampropeltis species we're working with. And
Yep.
he really has become a mentor in that aspect. But better than that, he's become a great friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be another thing in that kind of adventure to how we get here.
No, that's awesome. And I agree. Mentors turning into friends and like finding those people in the hobby who are genuine. I think that's something truly, truly important. Like someone I'd give a shout out to, and I think he was in here, like Emilio from Villarino Reptiles. Like I
Nice
met
guy.
that dude at a show. He's a local guy with the ball pythons, I should say. Not Colubrid related, whatever. But like Emilio, I met him, I talked to him, and then after that, he helped me out with so much shit. He wouldn't mind. I've bought one snake from him, but like it's not about financial stuff. Like we're just friends now.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Yeah.
dude.
So
Like some of the podcast guys, Justin Smith, Jake Bratz, Billy
yeah.
Hunt, all them dudes like half my age. I still reach out to them with questions.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask somebody younger too. They've
Yep.
had different life experiences. Every time I think I'm doing bad, I reach out to my boy Jason Keller, and I'm like, Jason, and he says something stupid. I'm like, damn, I'm not you, right? So I'm doing great. You know what I mean?
Right.
No, he's my homie. We go way back. But people like him, he's kept the bred more species than most people will ever even realize. And the dude's a wealth of knowledge. Phil Wolf from Snakes and Stogies.
Okay.
Man, list goes on. You get these people in your life.
Yeah. And I found out recently Phil's local to me. We're gonna do something soon, herping related. So
He's rad.
that'll be fun. Yeah, yeah. He's literally in my town or right near it. We're like very close.
It's a fun dude.
Yeah, for sure. He seems like it. So kind of wanted to get into what has become your bread and butter. So I know you still work with some of the gecko species, and then obviously a lot of colubrid. So I see obviously corn snakes are up there, and then a lot of pituophis, and then some like king snakes too, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Man, so my bread and butter would be stress, right? Like that's what I do. I'll be stressing. But I would say collection wise, it has changed. It has changed a lot.
Okay.
And it will change. It will continue to change. If my collection is not evolving and changing physically with me, right? The type of animals I'm keeping and the way I'm keeping them, I'm constantly changing how I'm keeping stuff. Some things that doesn't work, right? And we'll kind of get in that. If I had all the time and space in the world, I'd have mostly Pituophis.
Okay.
Don't. They are they are a lot of work. I actually have more Lampropeltis than I do any other species.
Okay.
Yeah. So mainly Mexicana complex. I do have some Gatula complex stuff. Lots of Pantherophis. So I have lots of different corns. I actually probably have less corns than I think. Maybe 20 or 25 adults.
Okay.
The awesome Corvette that's pulled up outside my house that is about to rev its engine is so cool. But the so I've kept a lot of Asian stuff. In fact, I recently sent most of my Asian stuff to Billy Hunt. And that's just one of those evolving things. I bred Othreophis tanura, the Chinese beauty snakes for years.
Beauties. Yeah.
One of my favorite species. Dude, what a badass snake. But as things change, I've we talked about it personally, but a lot of guys that listen to my podcast know I'm working on building a room. It's an investment. It's not a $200 or $300 investment. It's a oh man, this guy's so cool. If anybody has heard that. It's a $5,000 or $6,000 investment, right? And then you're going to be
Right.
buying different racks, and so you got to, like I said, if my hobby is paying for itself, and this year everybody knows wasn't the best year for sales, well, I've got to get that money somewhere. So we got to maybe cut some loose ends. We got to trim things. It doesn't mean you don't love them. Doesn't mean you're not going to continue to keep them. Sometimes the answer to that is just this was the decision I made at this time. I can get back into this.
Right.
Yeah, the geckos. I do a lot of leopard geckos with my daughter. I have been having some allergy issues with mealworms. I'm allergic to a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
stuff.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, so I'm allergic to everything. I'm allergic to mice. I'm allergic to grass. I'm allergic to aspen.
Really?
A lot of my pictures and stuff, I'm wearing gloves. I've maintained that through physical contact. Like I don't go in and clean with my hands.
Okay.
And sometimes I wear a respirator when it's heavy cleaning. Problem with the mealworms is there's just no way out of it, right? Like there's so much mealworm dust when you're breeding leopard geckos, and you have any kind of a 30 adults or so.
Yep.
So that chapter in my life may be coming to an end. That's a difficult decision that I'm kind of working with my daughter, especially because it's like her thing, right? And like,
yeah, that's tough.
How many people get to like hang out in the reptile room with their kid, right? And she's talking about pairing up leopard geckos, and oh, dad,
Yeah.
look at how good this baby is. We got to hold this baby back, and she's 7.
And you said she's young, right? Yeah, she's 7. Yeah. No, that's awesome, especially that you're getting her started that early.
Yeah. And she loves it, and if someday she doesn't, that's okay. I have to. That's kind of how you let them go, right? Like she's got to make that decision on her own. I can't push it on her. But dude, yeah, corn snakes are a big thing. The emoryi complex. I'm like a little emoryi nerd. I've bred a lot of different species. Not a lot of different species. I've kept a lot of different species of obsoleta. I have bred Everglades rats. There's also what else? Man, what else is my collection? There's so many odds and ends. Lots of Pitchophis and kind of oddball Pitchophis. The Jani or Depii Jani are my favorite species. That's it. But also, this past year I produced vertebralis, so Pitchophis vertebralis, which is the Cape Baja gopher. That's a snake that I've been working with for a long time. That ended up being really tough to get to go. It was some brumation ended up being really cold for them because some species are colder than others. I brumate different animals in different ways, and for them they actually it was barometric pressures. It was pouring rain and I paired them up, and then it just snapped in my mind. I was like, damn, why don't I just keep them together? So I've been cohabiting them since then, and they've been
right.
Perfect. So because I can't control the weather, and where we live is kind of like Florida, where bro, you ain't got no idea what it's gonna do today, right? Like it could start pouring right now. Because
that's where I'm at. So yeah.
I'm 500 feet from the ocean, so it's like
okay.
It's pretty crazy. But yeah, so the collection, like I was saying, is a lot of Lampropeltis, man, a lot of alterna, a lot of different locality alterna, some little micro projects within those localities, tons of Leonis, Mex. I got Greeri, some Getula. I've got some locality Getula. I've got some really neat Lampropeltis. Old school used to be Lampropeltis conjuncta, and those are Ciudad Insurgensis locality Baja California king snakes, which is about a 3 foot Cali king that's predominantly black with some really neat white banding on it and some really cool stark bright white head markings patterns.
Cool.
So yeah, it's a lot, and I'm forgetting things as we talk. I'll probably be like, oh yeah, also I bred black pines the last couple of years. Those are cool. The garage door is now opening. I'm gonna mute for 1 second. You talk for a minute.
No problem. Yeah, no, so that's awesome. One thing I've been loving about this podcast and what I've been seeing from other colubrid keepers is how diverse they like to be and going through with all these different species and stuff. And it's kind of what I'm looking towards in my collection. Like I'm up to 4 snake species, which isn't a whole lot, but I'm not working with a whole lot of room. So there will be more ads as we go on, but kind of working with what I got right now. But so it's
dude, they're addicting, right? Like,
you
get a couple, you're like, wow, these are pretty cool, and you're like, man, these are kind of easy. wait, these don't take up a lot of space. And you're like, I just get a little bit more, one more rack or one more cage. I'll get this species and I'll get this species,
Right.
And then that little things start tickling in your head. I think you had said that you might have had some the cockeye.
Yeah, I have a couple porfs. I have 2 of the Porphyracia subspecies.
Yeah, and that's it. You got 2. Now you got to get all of them.
Yep.
You got to go the Valencia. I forget all the names of them, but
I have Violante and Coxeye. I'm missing Laticinctus and Pulcher.
Oreo Cryptophis, right? I think
Yeah, Porphyracia, and
oh,
then
man. And dude, they're sweet, right? But now you got to
they're awesome.
all of them, right? And then if you get lucky enough to produce them, which they're pretty fecunded, they're a good species to breed. Then you get to see
that's what I've heard.
They look different when they're babies. I don't know if that's the Pulchers or which one.
They kind of Coxeye is the only one that maintains like throughout its entire life, from what I could tell.
The same, right? Yeah.
Coxeye, yeah, they keep that orange with the black racing stripes. The others kind of dull out a little bit more. That's why arguably Coxeye is my favorite overall. Though the Violantia's babies are beautiful that I'm keeping right now. Those are from Matt. Most
those are the ones that are the kind of like a umber bright orange, almost the color of this, and like red, right?
Yeah, they have the nice banding, and then they also have the stripes going down the back that kind of have like an orange like highlight going around them. They're interesting. You have to see them up close to get like really appreciate them.
Make more of those, right? Like just stuff like that. I get all pumped up on that stuff. I'm like, man, I love seeing those snakes. And at some point, I'm gonna do a. I'll take 8 years of my life and I'll do some porfs, right? Like I'm gonna have to, right? I can't not.
Yeah.
It scratches all the itches. But yeah, that's I got that mentality, man. Like I know that I'm gonna do this at some point. I just fingers crossed I live long enough.
So I have to ask, because you had mentioned it, and because I just freaking love them. What made you get out of the Asian species? Because I'm all over these Asian colubrids, and not that like you don't like them anymore, like you said. Maybe it was just something you had to move on with, or you found interest in something else that were taking a little more priority. So what was kind of that decision behind?
So I'm an engineer, and so as an engineer, I do a lot of schedule planning with my shop, and I compartmentalize things. So the Asian species, the Asian species for one are kind of kept a certain way.
Yeah.
And then maybe my Mexicana are kept a certain way, and then my Pituophis are all kept a certain way. There are some species that kind of trail off into different care, but then all of my Pantherophis are kept a certain way. And I'm just like really nerdy about like I work with kind of this complex one day, and then I work with this complex the next day.
Gotcha.
And so I started kind of looking at it, and I didn't want to sell a bunch of snakes. I had stuff that I could sell. I could make probably a couple snakes I could sell that I could fund what I was doing. And so I kind of decided, I was like, hey, what can I take and put into somebody I trust's hands and not charge them a bunch of money or anything, right? And that's where Billy Hunt came in, and I was like, all right, Billy's my dog, right? Like he's my guy. We've been homies. We've traded animals before, right? He'll send me something, I'll send him something. I've just sent him stuff because I'm like that annoying guy that loves sending people snakes. And I was like, all right, I trust this guy. I know that if these animals go to anybody, they're still going to be here next year. They're going to be here the year after that. They're going to be here the year after that. And this is the guy to do it. So I kind of made the call there. There was a couple other options I had. And it wasn't like, and it kind of sucks. I probably have animals that I like less than them, right? That I'm like, man, I could just get rid of this like 14th corn snake, right? Or corn snake number 28B-1. Probably could have left. But it was just a timing and a friend thing and a trust thing.
Yep.
And also size, like they're big, right? And
of course.
So and I knew that if I was going to do it, I was going to send them all. And so I did. I actually did the same thing. I got real big into. I had some European, Eurasian species. I had leopard rats and twin ladder rats, I think. was it twin spots? Anyways, and I literally like sent those all to Billy too.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
was like
He
last
mentioned
year.
all those species. He
Yeah,
mentioned all of them. So yes, you are right.
and I straight up was like last year. I was like, I called him and I was like, hey Billy, like I bought way too much at Daytona because I came home with like 20 something snakes, and I was like, I held back 20 something snakes last year, and I was like, I did this to myself, and I was like, bro, I'm shipping on Tuesday. And he was like, cool, man, dope. And he's one of those guys that just has, that attitude where he's like, yeah, man, if whenever you're ready, I'll send them back. Like, you're good.
Right.
Is it the right way to do things? Nope. Right. Like don't do this. If you're young and starting in this hobby and it's like your first couple snakes, don't plan on doing that. But after after you've been breeding snakes for, 20 something years, or not snakes, but breeding reptiles for 20 something years, you kind of
Yep.
start doing that, right? Like I have this
Yeah,
syndrome
yeah.
with this that, and I'm
Of
like
course.
really strict on quarantine, and I have multiple quarantine spots and rooms because like I have one stage of quarantine. I do a bunch of testing at that point. They go to a stage of quarantine, and then sometimes even a third stage of quarantine if I'm not happy with the second stage of quarantine before they ever join the collection. So there's, I don't know. This probably makes me sound crazy, but we
No,
all
it's
got to
all
be a little
right.
crazy, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's so that's that. Yeah, and dude, O3 Ophis are one of the best and most rewarding species to breed because the way the babies hatch, the way the babies act, the way the babies look, how easy they are to get feeding, the size they come out at, it's a treat. Keeping them as adults is also great. They are very secretive. They're very seclusive.
Right.
They don't cohab well, which I would not suggest anybody do. I know some people do, and more power to them. Like I said, I've kept them bioactive before. I had this whole run about a year and a half where I did bioactive tubs,
Okay.
which is like really cool. And that Pitch Ophis ruined that for me because I was like, oh man, I'm literally just digging out half the tub anyways.
When they poop.
Because they poop so much. I am a bit of I am a tub keeper for the most part, and that maybe isn't everybody's favorite, and that's okay. I don't think anybody is wrong, right?
I keep in tubs as well. So yeah.
I do different ventilation for different species, different light levels for different species, different temperatures for different species, different beddings for different species, different room sizes, right? Like I have some small snakes that are in big tubs. I have some bigger snakes that you wouldn't think, oh man, that's not the right size tub, and they're doing great.
Okay.
I am more concerned about the health of my animals and the look of my animals and my time with my animals than I'm ever going to be about breeding something. I could probably produce 500 or 600 babies this year, and I think I've got 14 pairs I'm doing. Last year I produced 230. That was probably a little too much. Still, again, probably could have produced 500. I'm not worried about breeding. I'm not worried about making a ton of money from breeding. The hobby's got to maintain itself. I produce a few things that I know I'm going to trade off. I'm all about giving females a year or two off. In fact, I only had one species last year that I was for sure giving that female the year off, and she still produced babies. That was my black pines.
Really?
Yeah, she produced 4 eggs. 2 made it the distance, and I produced 1.1 actually.
Awesome.
But by giving her the year off, I didn't brumate her, and I was able to feed her heavier, and and she put back a lot more weight. She had lost a lot from her first clutch. She had laid 5 eggs. And black pine snake eggs are massive.
They're big, right?
Dude, it's unbelievable how big they are. But I was happy. Now she's in great shape, and now guess what? She's back in brumation now. She's going to breed next year, and hopefully make a bunch of little demon snakes for all the little happy Satanists out there next year, and that'll be good.
Yeah. So I definitely want to get into more of the Pituophis because that's definitely something like that's kind of your thing. And also I haven't had any other well, I did. Jake was on last week. I haven't gone into
snakes he has.
Okay. I haven't gone into like a lot of depth with them. And I have very limited experience with them. The most I have when I worked at a pet store, which I talk about all the time, we had a big bull snake who I was a little bit younger. I always was like kind of scared of him because he would just hiss and do that. But I know he was always like bluff striking. And we had I think it was a San Diego, maybe not. It was a type of gopher. It was just a type of gopher snake. But who knows what it was, because it was at the pet store for a while. But either way, so that's my limited experience. They are very cool. The Pituophis, I really like bull snakes, but talk about a little bit more. You mentioned the Depii Geni. Is that how it's pronounced? My bad.
Depii Geni, yeah.
Depii Geni. Okay.
And you know what? I'm not a scientist, right? Like I said this before. I probably ain't saying these things right. Yeah, I'm just a big dumb South Texan, and I'm gonna say these things which sound right. I work with Loffman, and he's like, oh, I think it's this, and I'm like, bro, I don't know, man. Them pretty ones from Mexico, right?
Yeah.
So the Pituophis complex, like in a whole, and I can actually get a little bit deeper into what I have had, what I've bred, and kind
sure.
of there's little nuances to each of them. I would say the biggest mistake. I'm gonna start with the biggest mistake that everybody makes with Pituophis is they keep them too hot. If you're keeping your Pituophis at 84 degrees, 85 degrees, 86 degrees, these are the temperatures these snakes see when they're out and they're hunting, right? When a bull snake is out, when a snoring gopher, so it goes bull snake, snoring gopher, San Diego gopher, Pacific gopher, and then desert acola, which is the Great Basin gopher. And this is all the Pituophis catenifer complex, right? And then they have all their trinomial names. So these are your gopher snakes, right? Like bull snakes are technically a gopher snake. This species, it ranges from where I'm at. I have bull snakes here. We go a little bit more west. We hit the Sonoran gophers, and then we go over, and then you're like Los Angeles, kind of the northern part of Mexico right there is your San Diego gophers, and then you get up your Pacific gophers and your Great Basin gophers. But bull snakes also go from South Texas, where it's Satan's butthole down here, and it goes all the way north into Canada, right? So we have one species.
Oh, that far?
Oh yeah, all the way up into Canada. So we have one species that, and there's a few arguments to be made here that may not all be one species, right? Where up in Canada they're 4 foot long, and they brumate for 4 months, and they produce 20 eggs, and then you come down here where they're over 7 foot long, they get 8 foot long. They produce 6 eggs at a time that are the size of a basketball, pretty much.
Right.
And they don't brumate, right? Like maybe it's gonna be today was nice and chilly. That's why I'm wearing a hoodie. But next week we have highs in the high 70s. I think on Christmas it's gonna be in the low 80s, right?
Okay.
You ain't gonna tell me that a bull snake's out there brumating. Nah, man, they're out hunting. They're looking for baby rabbits and rats and stuff like that. So my idea on the gopher snakes, right? Pine snakes I mirror with this. Is that yes, you can keep gopher snakes and pine snakes hotter, right? Pine snakes do the same thing, right? So pine snakes are from Florida, and then they go all the way up into New Jersey, right? So you start with the Florida pines,
Jersey pines.
Yeah, you got Florida pines. You got Florida and Southern used to be split, but you have Florida Southern pines. You have your black pines. You have your Northern pines. And then there's this like cute little species that's somewhere in Texas and Louisiana, which is the Louisiana pine snake, which I don't even, there's like 4 of them out there. And I can't have them anyways because I'm in Texas.
Okay.
But you have this species that ranges so far, and everybody keeps every single one of them the exact same way. They are 84 degrees, you know what I mean? 86 degrees. It doesn't matter if they get too hot. Throw them, make sure they can see you. And they're just hissy and pissy all the time. Dude, I keep all of my Pituophis about 78 to 80, right? All of them. That's a hot spot. My cool side's probably 74 to 76, just depends on what time of the year. Yes, during the summer when it's 117 degrees here, my house gets 80 degrees on the inside. I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But you would never, with the exception of the black pines, you would never hear a Pituophis doing its hiss, right? You won't hear them rattling their tails. I open up my tubs. Yes, they're very aggressive feeders. You will get feeding responses. You will get bit sometimes. Like this is a thing that happens with all species. But man, once they're in your hand, they're just chilling, right? And this isn't something I've been experiencing for a year or two. This is something I'm experiencing for 8 years now. You know what I mean?
And you think that has to do with the the temperatures people are keeping at.
And
Yeah, and I agree with you. Just in general, like I feel like all the North American colubrids in general, like that 78 to 80 is like perfect. Just perfect temperature.
I'd love to have a tub that was 6 foot by 4 foot and was 12 inches deep, and I could put a 90 degree hot spot in one corner, and I could have an 80 degree hot spot in one corner, and I could have it at 65 degrees on the other side. But that's not going to happen. And I know that these animals don't want to be seen, because I had some beautiful display cages for bull snakes. That's not what they want. They don't want to see you. They love being in burrows. They don't like being out and about. They're crepuscular, right? When we find them right when the sun is going down, and you find them right when the sun's coming up. They're not night hunters. They're a diurnal snake. They need a little bit of sunlight to be able to see what they're doing. They're not these. They don't have these big ocular eyes like your subox and your Alterna and your Mexicana and these species that have that capability of capturing just any bit of light, still seeing what they're doing. Bull snakes have very small, very forward-driven eyes. They have that big tapered face. They have that deep snout for burrowing and digging and pushing. But yeah, they're great complex to work with. Bulls, Sonoran gophers, San Diego gophers. I've produced all of those in the past. They're very easy to breed. They're very easy to rear and raise and work with. Babies are always pissy with every single species. I don't work with any of those anymore. That is probably a limited thing. I will eventually get more. I love bull snakes. Once I got more space, I'm probably going to get some more bull snakes. I've bred local Nueces County bull snakes. I've bred Clayburgh bulls. I've bred morph. I've never bred any morph bull snakes. I've bred some morph San Diego.
Oh, okay.
But what, man? So limited space, limited time, and also these things are massive, right? Like some of my bull snakes were over 6 foot. You're talking tanks. These things are
Yes.
Another mistake a lot of people make is big meals. Never,
feeding
ever,
too much.
Ever with Pitchophis. You're going to feed often, but you're going to feed small meals. Like, dude, 6 foot, 6.5 foot bull snake, and I'm still feeding them small rats, right?
Yeah. I was going to say small rats even, or like, so yeah, you'll go small rat at the max.
Max. If money wasn't an object, time wasn't an object, I'd be doing two adult mice, right? Like, I feel like that's the perfect feeding every 7 to 10 days. Also, I'm a prolonged feeder. I truly believe that a lot of these species, especially males, don't need to be fed every week. You get a snake that just keeps metabolizing, keeps getting bigger, keeps metabolizing, keeps getting bigger, keeps getting bigger. I'm like a 2-week feeder on a lot of my males.
Okay.
When I start cooling down, man, sometimes it's even less than that. A lot of them go off feed during breeding. With Pitchophis, you don't see that too often. But yeah, so pines I keep the same way. So I have some Florida leucistics and black pines, and I have some New Jersey giant line, which is from Thomas Davis, which is a New Jersey It's a combination of New Jersey localities that has been bred for size and that real crisp black and white color. I have some northern pines from that group. And dude, they're easy to keep, right? Again, 78, 80. Aspen, right? I put a hide on the cold side, hide on the hot side if I got enough room. Usually it's just a hide on the hot side. One thing I kind of do with them is small water bowls. Everybody's like, oh, but the snake can't get in the water bowl, Kris. What are you doing? I'm like, yeah, but now the snake can't knock the water bowl over on Tuesday, then again on Wednesday, then again on Thursday.
Yeah.
That's which is a thing, right? Because my time is also valuable in this, and they don't actually drink that much water. But those are complexes. I kind of brumate them all the same, just because they're tolerant of it, which is usually 55 degrees for 3 to 4 months. Which Pitchophis is best Pitchophis? Oh man, it's a tough one. I have the answer, and this is from the bottom of my heart. The best Pitchophis is Pitchophis stepii jani, which is the North Mexican pine snake, which is kind of found on the complete eastern range of Mexico, on the east side of the central Mexican plateau. So this is the ugliest snake in the world when it hatches. They breed
as a lot of colubrids are. You have to give them that age. That's truly the
goodness,
thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Go through that ontogenic change and just Deppii Jani are the best snakes, period, on the planet, in my opinion. It's a cool temp species. I keep mine. So my two southern Pitchophis, which I am working on getting the rest of them, and I just haven't had a lot of luck. But it's going to be Pitchophis Deppii Jani and Pitchophis vertebralis. These species, so the Pitchophis vertebralis are found at the southernmost tip of the Baja Peninsula. It's the Cape Baja gopher. I think I forget the name of the area they're in. And then you have again the also known as the Mexican bull snake, the North Mexican pine snake.
Okay.
But both of these animals are very similar longitudinally. I don't know if it's latitudinally, but you know what? We're just gonna use words that we don't know the meanings to. They're you could draw a line to them. I maxed them out at 78 degrees.
Okay.
If it wasn't for size, I would keep my Jani cohab year round, no questions. Wouldn't have an issue with it. I do cohab my vertebralis year round now. I don't brumate my Jani per se. They're more of a light cycle animal and a
Interesting
feeding. I pair them up in December. I have had them breed in December. Right now, I put them in one of my cold closets. I have a cold closet for corn snakes. That's where I brumate them, which is about mid 60s, right? Like we ain't hitting them 55s. We're not hitting them 50s, but maybe mid 60s, low 70s some days. But I've noticed that if I do that, they don't breed. If I pair them in December, they'll breed in December. I prefer them to breed a little later. That way, all my babies give me a stress and heart attack at the same time, instead of hatching some out in February and some in June or July, and then some in August. And then my Everglades rats would always breed late, and I'd be hatching them in November. And then at some point, I'm just ready to fall on the sword, right? Like I just too many babies, right?
Yeah.
But the best Pitchophis Deppii Jani. It's the ugliest snake in the world when it hatches. It goes through the most beautiful ontogenic change. It has one of the absolute best dispositions of any snake I've ever worked with, and they are bulletproof as long as you do a few things. They do have a couple of little boxes you want to make sure you check. One, they don't like a lot of water. They like it a little drier. That doesn't mean to derive them of water. That doesn't mean to derive them of a nice moist hide box when they're in shed. But that does mean good ventilation, holes everywhere. That does mean dry bedding, man. If it gets wet, let's clean that up. You know what I mean? Some snakes,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I could piss on a corn snake. It's going to breed next year, right? Like, it don't care. Dude, these corn snakes are bulletproof. They're actual bulletproof.
Yeah.
But with the Jani, let's keep them dry, right? You don't need to have 30% humidity, right? Where I'm at, it's 70 to 80% humidity, no matter what, right? Like, I just always have good hair days. But I know that with that species, I want to keep them drier. The next thing is small meals. If Jani vertebralis bimaris, which is the northern version of a vertebralis, and also Deppii, which is the Durango mountain pine snake. All four of these species have regurgitation syndrome issues. So once they regurge, that's it. Like it's gonna keep happening. That's not an always. That is a sometimes. But a lot of other species, subox, rosale. Bogertrophus rosale, which is the Baja rat snake, which they're really cool. I've killed 4 of those. Once they start throwing up, they can't stop, right? And
Interesting.
There's a name for this syndrome. It's not crypto, right? Like I test for crypto. We know the symptoms of crypto. We know the dangers of crypto. It's something every breeder needs to be conscious of. But yeah, it's a really weird thing they do, and that's I take one more step above. I do not thaw out mice in water for them, right? I am adamant.
Interesting.
My mice thaw out in the air, right? Like it takes longer. You're gonna have to spend a little bit more time on it, but they're small meals. Like my adult Jani are probably 5 foot or so. They're pretty good, pretty decent size. And sometimes they get a mouse, right? Like not even a large adult mouse. I'll just give them like an adult mouse. Like the same thing I'm feeding a corn snake.
Right.
And these things don't lose weight. They can go longer than any snake I've ever seen without a meal. I've never had one refuse a meal, but I've had times where I was like, all right, I'm just not going to feed this male. I'm getting ready for brumation. And dude, it looks just the exact same.
Gotcha.
when kids come over, if they want to see like a big snake, if I'm not handing them, hell, I guarantee you, if you came over to my house, you get bit by a corn snake before you got bit by a janine. And I've got about 15 or so janine
Okay.
in my collection. Let me think. I can't think of anything else on the janine. It's a snake that you can keep at a V70, right?
V70. Okay.
That's like the size. I've seen them bigger than that, dude. I've seen some tanks. But I think it's gonna kind of mirror like carpet pythons and stuff like that. The more you feed them, the bigger meals you give them, the bigger they get. I mean, babies hatch out huge. Babies could probably take a fuzzy or like a crawler right off the rip. But I give them little tiny red hot pinkies because I just don't want to have any issues. I don't want to have any worries about them.
Right.
I've never had one not take frozen thaw right out of the egg. You probably incubate them however you like. Incubate them, yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're probably gonna hatch. I've had eggs look like crap and hatch. I've had beautiful eggs hatch. I produce a lot of males. I don't know what that is. I talked about that in my Colubrid Radio podcast, which I talk about this exact same species for like 3 hours because it's my favorite. I don't know. I produce a lot of males. I don't know if it's a species thing.
Okay.
I've heard yes and no. So I don't know. But yeah, that's Janine. Vertebralis are like the micro versions of that are impossible to breed, but they still eat easy. Vertebralis are about 3 foot long. They're one of the
okay.
They're the second smallest Pitiophis. Yeah, and they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous. You see the pictures of that kind of red. They almost look like a breadlie. Color-wise, they have these reds and yellows and these soft velvet kind of purples in their saddles. But yeah, I don't know if best Pitiophis was like a 25-minute question, but yeah. So
No, that's all good. No, and I also wanted to get back to you about the feeding question. So it's something I've been hearing a lot with certain python species too, like overfeeding is the devil, and that's how, you make snakes not breed or you kill them in itself. So you're someone who goes by smaller meals, and that's something I'm transitioning to as well, going smaller meals, better meals. I also wanted to ask, what are you feeding? Is it purely rodents, but you kind of switch up between rats and mice depending, or what's that for you?
So I feed predominantly rodents for my Pitiophis. Every species may be a little different. My Othriophys, when I had those, were predominantly chicks, man.
Okay, gotcha.
Like those day-old chicks you can get frozen. A couple different companies have them. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Wet my nose. Excuse me. That was gross. But yeah. So Othriophys, I was predominantly chicks, man. They ate chicks great. They held size with it. So with the bulk of my Pitiophis, I do mostly mice and small rats. There's not an animal in my house that eats bigger than a small rat. Right? That's it. Like, you ain't getting bigger than a small rat. I'm not ordering bigger than a small rat. That being said, I do feed chicks. Most of my adult Pitiophis will take chicks. I'll do 1 or 2.
Cool.
I'll do chicken hearts. I get these, dude. It's like the best. This is a secret sauce for reptile keepers. This is all nasty and like frozen bit. But I get these. I think this was $2.99 for this whole brick of chicken hearts, homie. Like, dude,
okay.
If you can get your snakes start eating chicken hearts, $2.99, right? You know how many snakes
Yeah.
I can feed with that? You put a plate of chicken hearts in there. I don't do any fish with my Pitiophis. I've heard of people doing fish. I've also heard what it smells like, right? And like, bro, like my snake room is in my house, right? It's literally 8 feet from my kitchen, and my wife is small and mighty, right? And if something smells, and Pitiophis already smell, right? If we can smell things in the house, it's game over, right? So I'm conscious of that. Chicks, sometimes you get a funky smell out of chicks, but it doesn't last a long time. The chicken hearts are great. Man, dude, chicken hearts. Don't feed predominantly chicken hearts. I nutritional facts about them, but if you'll get species that'll take chicken heart, plate them up, baby. It's cheap and easy.
No, that's cool.
Also, Varanid keepers, I know, use chicken hearts. I've done quail for the pits.
Yeah.
Man, what else have I found? Eggs. So
Pituophis, some species of Pituophis will eat eggs. And sometimes you
Interesting.
get slugs out of your leopard geckos or out of your lychees or out of your gargoyle
Okay.
geckos or out of your coleonyx or out of your, other billion species of geckos you're breeding. Take those slugs, let them sit a little bit. If you take them out of the moist hide, I've noticed this. Maybe it's just me thinking about it. If you let them sit for maybe 30 minutes, they firm up a little bit more because they don't have that moisture that they're drawing in to kind of make that spongy, gooey goodness. Throw them bad boys on a plate, feed them up.
Interesting.
Very diet's great. I make this sound like every weekend I'm cooking up some etouffee for my snakes and stuff like that, but it ain't like that. Maybe once a month I do a meal that's different. Maybe once every 6 weeks, right?
Gotcha.
Every fourth or fifth feeding, I've got something different going on, but it's good. You got to vary it, right? Like
Right.
There's got to be a health aspect to it.
Yep.
Not the scientist to tell you what it is, but why not?
No, and that's why I'm so excited to get my stuff on quail, because I've been a rodent feeder forever, and now that I have a good local quail supplier, like I'm super pumped to start getting that into my adult Texas rats and stuff. But I was curious. So you are feeding birds. Are Pituophis semi-arboreal at all, or are they mostly ground dwellers?
No. If there was the last snake that you're going to see in a tree is a Pituophis of any kind.
That's what I figured.
Dude, they can burrow, they can dig,
Okay.
they can push, they can. They're little bulldozers, right? They're not little. They're big bulldozers.
Yeah.
They have so much strength and so much forward pushing movement. But they are not climbing a tree, man. That
Okay.
is not happening. I'm sure it's happened, right? I'm sure
Yep.
there's some world where a bull snake was like found climbing up something, but no, I've never experienced it. Finding Sonorans and bulls and stuff, never something I've witnessed.
Gotcha. And now, what's also probably the biggest pit that you have in the collection? Because as I was growing up and working at the pet store, I was always under, and I don't know if I was just reading bad information or if it was an assumption, like information passed down, but like that they got big. And then I was told recently by someone else who I have to get on the show, Kris from BNS Reptilia. I'm not sure if you know of him. He's up in Pennsylvania. He keeps some Pituophis species, but he was like, yeah, man, they really don't get that big. Like I don't like power feed my animals. Like they're in V70, some of them, and like they're good, like you said. So yeah, I was curious about that because I thought they were like 8-foot snakes.
They can be. So one of the things with the new room that I'm building, I'm going to be getting some FB90s for certain species. My northern pines are massive, bro. My northern pines will be, I bet by the end of next year, my northern pines, they'll be 7 years old, 6, 7 years old. They'll be 7 foot. It's a big snake.
Okay.
It's a big snake, bro. Like you know what's funny? Tank, my big male. Males are always bigger than females. I've heard otherwise. I think that the reason it's otherwise is because you feed your females more than you feed your males, right? Like that's
Gotcha.
because you wanted to breed them at 2 or 3 years instead of 4 years or 5 years.
Yep.
I'm a pretty strict 4-year breeder. So if that says anything about how I feed my Pituophis, right? But bro, my northern pines are monsters. Tank is big, and he gets a small rat. It's the biggest thing he's ever eaten: a small rat or 2 chicks or 2 mice. That's it. Any feeding he's ever gotten. And homie can just about go from the front to the back, to the backside, and to the back of a V70. He has a lot of snake. The female's a little bit smaller than him, maybe by about a foot. And I think that with females, the reason my females are a little bit smaller, not only in nature are they smaller, because as we find them, we find smaller females than we do males. But your females also go off feed when they're grabbing. They also produce a bunch of eggs. So now they're using all of that nutrition for other reasons other than just size and growth. And that's why I'm kind of cognizant of feeding my males a little less often, right? Like there's a balance there. And I don't have these snakes that I open up the tub, they come flying out, just murder your hand, they're biting everything. Nah, like they're not hungry. I found them in the wild. Every wild snake, I'm always like, man, yeah, look a little skinny. this one's a little skinny.
Yep.
But it's not, right? Like, that's what they are. And so in my collection, I always look at my snakes. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. But honestly, they're probably on a little bit heavier side for all of us.
I mean, and all these captive animals we have, like, we feed them more than they eat in the wild, like, guaranteed. Guaranteed. So, yeah.
Bulls are
I'm
good,
with
too. My Clayburg bulls. So I had Kankakee bulls I raised up and bred. That went to Jeff and Kendra. What you call it? Puget Sound Pythons. My homies
Yep.
up in Washington. I sent them those. They actually have some of my San Diego Gophers I produced too.
Nice.
But dude, Southern bulls. So like your Clayburg bulls. Now Clayburg is a county. In that county is the city of Kingsville, and I'm sure you've heard of Kingsville red bull snakes. I have found bull snakes in Kingsville. They are not red.
Okay.
That was a line breeding project. They have found some redder bull snakes down here in the south, but that's a line bred thing, right? So Kingsville reds are a line bred trait, selective breeding. But man, my Clayburgs, they were big. The adults were over 7 foot. I think the male was 7'5", 7'6"
Sure.
something like that. Yeah, about 7'5" I think it was. I said Jake's got a pair of my Clayburg bulls, and I seen some pictures. I think they're 2 or 3 years old. They're big.
Okay.
Put some size on them. But yeah, they're not huge, dude. They're smaller than they just don't have the mass of a python, right? I'm sure you've seen like a you know when somebody has that jungle carpet python, right? And they're like, this is the size they're supposed to be, right? Because you've seen the monsters, but you see the jungle carpet that's like 5-6 foot, maybe 5 foot, and they're like, this is the perfect size for a female carpet python. That's still bigger than your biggest Pituophis because it has actual mass to it, right? It has girth, it has weight to it. Whereas Pituophis, Colubrids in general are just more lithe, right? They're
Yes.
thinner. They got more length to them.
Yep. Cool. And then another species, getting off the Pituophis a little bit, that I wanted to get into. So after hearing Clint talk about them almost every episode of Colubrid and Colubroid, and then I talked to a ball python breeder recently who I'm not going to say a name, but awesome guy. He got into a Colubrid species, and it was probably the worst one to be introduced into as a ball python breeder. And just in general, one I've heard that's hard, and that's Alterna, which you have Gray Banded Kings.
I got a whole bunch of Gray Banded Kings.
Yeah. So Alterna, I'm curious to hear a little bit more about those guys, because they're apparently kind of that like white elephant.
Yeah. So Alterna's jewel of Texas, right? It's the most. There's a lot of snakes out there, a lot of beautiful snakes, right? I close my eyes and I think some of these Gonyosoma, I think some of these like rhinoceros vipers, I think these animals, they're just beautiful, right? They draw out emotions from you just thinking about what they look like.
Yep.
But oh my God, Alterna, right? Like just seeing these things and the complexity of their look and the diversity of their patterns and colors and the richness and the depth of their colors. Until you get them in your hands, and I get there's.
I was gonna say, I think I need to see them in person, because I don't think I truly appreciate that. There's probably a lot of species I don't truly appreciate. I need to see in my hands. So yeah.
I will say this about Alterna, and I'm not saying this because I produce them. I have sold very, very few. I give away almost all the Alterna I produce. Other than getting babies started, and other than breeding, those two things right there, it is the best first snake and the easiest snake to keep alive, right?
Okay.
If somebody purchased one that was feeding already and was a good feeder, right? Like the snake eats every time, it's good to go. It does not get easier than that, dude. I've kept them at 70 degrees, and they eat, they metabolize, they poop, they're happy, they're fine. I've had them at 84 degrees, they eat, metabolize, they poop, they're fine. They've been found in the wild at 54 degrees. They've been found in the wild at 92 degrees. This species lives in. I go to West Texas a couple times a year. It's my favorite place in the world. And one day I will retire there. I'll be in Alpine, Texas. It is the harshest place that I've ever been to. It's not really super deserty. There is some green and stuff, but
Okay.
it's just you never know when it's gonna rain. You never know when there's gonna be animals around there. And I understand there's deserts in Arizona and stuff like that. And there's monsoon seasons and there's stuff, but West Texas is just so interesting. This is derivative of all the Mexicana species, right? Like if you go Alterna, you go a little further south. I think you have Greeri over here. Then you've got the San Luis Potosi king snake, which is the Lamprobeltis mexicana, and then you have the variable king snake with Lamprobeltis leonis. A little further south is Ruth Veni. Then there's Web-Eye, which is the one that they found like 2 of that we're never getting any because you can't go catch them and you can't get anything out of Mexico wild anymore. Alterna actually
Okay.
have a larger range in Mexico than they do in Texas, and they actually have a
Interesting.
little poop of a spot in New Mexico, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
But with Alterna, there's this weird thing, and it's like, people, I don't really get it. I really don't get it, and it's like, well, look at this species that is like nothing looks like that, right? They got this
Right.
flat little toad head. They got these big old funky eyes, but they have these crazy colors. And I can sit here and breed. I do it every year. I breed species or pairs that look the same, or I breed pairs that look completely different. Now I'm a big locality nut, so I'm like,
Yeah.
if that snake's not off the exact same damn rock as the other snake, you're making hybrids, which I don't like to say it out loud, but that's okay. You can do that, right? Like people can do that. But dude, you can have 2 snakes from the exact same locality that are so different. I've got I have a dark night project, which is what I call it. I have a male from 3 Mile West of Sanderson, which is a cut that's about a quarter mile long. And it's a nasty cut to walk, but there's a lot of foliage on the cut, and a lot of snakes are found there, especially in the 2000s. A lot of snakes are found there. Hell, probably for the last 6 years, a lot of snakes have been found there. But I have a couple. I have a feed there. It's common. Like if you were showing me snakes, I'd say that's a Sanderson snake, or I'd say that's a west of Sanderson snake. If it was real dark, a lot of dark base color. Well, I've got a male that's black, right? Like he's just black, right? And there's no orange on him. He's got a little white flecking, a little bit of white on his belly, but he's got all these amazing iridophores. So I've been breeding him to a really dark female 3 Mile West of Sanderson. And so I started my Dark Night project, and now I've got these babies that I've raised up for a couple years that, dude, they are gonna be black. And so hopefully my goal is to in the future make a bunch of probably the ugliest gray banded king snakes on the planet because they're not gonna have the cool colors, but it'll be a neat thing. But dude, Boy Scout Road, you go up north on 17, you're in Olympia Canyon. You get these snakes that are brown with black stripes, and they have like barely any orange. But you go further south, now you're down here in Alpine, and you get these snakes with these muddled oranges and these crazy flecks of orange, but really low white. You go further south down to River Road, all the way down south to River Road, Terralingua area, Lajitas, I guess. And you've got these snakes that have these crazy, they call them chaos patterns, where they look like granite all the way down their neck. And then you go east, and then you get some of the what is it, Dog Canyon and or is it Panther Canyon or Dog Canyon? I forgot. And your 277 animals that are just this crisp gray with these giant bright orange blocks on them. And then you get obsessed with these animals, and then you go to West Texas for a long time, and you're never going to see one, right? It's
right.
You're not going to find one. And so I found my one and only. I caught my one and only in 2001. That was in North Olympia Canyon on 17 with John Lasseter. And so
awesome.
I did finally find one. It was best. It was best. Like 73, 74 degrees, about 10 o'clock, sun had just gone down. Get out of the car, and I'm out with John. It's my first time I was in West Texas with John. I'm fumbling with my light. Oh yeah, let's find some snakes, bro. I click my light on. It's pointing at an alternative.
Really? Okay.
I found my first alternative in 10 seconds of walking this cut.
That's awesome.
And that was the one and only. But
that's awesome.
Sometimes that's how it happens. But yeah, tough to breed, right? Like they require a lot of cold, about 50 degrees, 55 degrees for about 4 months. Males usually go off feeding. That just kind of happens. And getting babies started is about a 4.5 hour podcast for me to warm you up to, right? I have successfully gotten every Alterna I've ever produced to eat.
Really? Wow.
Say what works best, and my answer is going to be, good God in heaven, I have no idea. But I've produced them for 3 or 4 years now, and they they suck to get going. But and I'm going to say this, and I can actually give you an example because this is a video podcast. You can go into any situation with plans, right? So you can have your little ground skink that's in here, right? So I got a ground skink, and if you notice, it's like kind of frozen in there. It's not falling, the tail's flapping around, but there's water in here. So what I do is I take different animals, and a lot of people just like to make slurries. I'm not a slurry guy. That's gross. I'm not going to chop this guy up. This guy was out trying to feed his family when I caught him. But I put water in here, and I get them at about room temperature for a couple hours. And you know what that does with an animal? It makes about the most disgusting thing you've ever seen. Guess what? It smells bad. Well, if that smells bad and that water smells bad, now I've got a little dip, right? I've got a little dip. And dude, I've got so many. I got Mediterranean geckos that I do this with, and I have.
So what do you kind of like thaw that? You let that water start to melt a little bit.
Yeah,
and that's what you use to dip the pinkies in or whatever.
Yeah, dude, I have every single flavor of the Repti juices or whatever.
Okay.
I'm plugging a company.
That's fine.
Repti Links, right? Like,
okay, yeah.
Juices, I try all that.
Speaking of Reptilinks, Alvaro from Clover's Reptiles, past guest, is having them on his show this Tuesday. So,
dude, they do Lowers work, right? Like, I got gecko juice, I got frog juice, I got iguana juice, I got a knoll juice, boiled pinkies, brain pinkies, split pinkies, pinkies rubbed in dirt. Do all that plus a lizard. Do all that on top plus lizard skin.
Right.
There's you like I said, we could talk for hours on getting them things to eat. Some of them eat off the rip, right?
Gotcha.
Eat a frozen
yeah.
Pinky. Number one thing, go into it planned, right? Like I planned on producing Alterna, so I knew this information is free. It's all out there. All the reptile keepers been doing this for 50 years, right? So let them tell us how to do it. It's kingsnake.com or whatever. Go into it knowing what the battle was, right? If I go into battle and I got every weapon, I'm gonna win eventually, right? Yeah, like I'll find the thing that wins that works against you, right? So just stack the deck, man. Have patience. I usually don't start feeding Alterna until 2 or 3 weeks after their first shed.
Okay. Get them a little hungry.
Yeah, give them a little while, get them hungry. And then, you know what? Sometimes you got to brewmate that animal. It ain't going to eat. Make sure it's got lots of water. I don't like tailing them. I never start doing tails or pumping them. People start doing it, and I'm not saying that's the wrong way to do it. But once you start getting that metabolism going, you got to keep it up. So the snake wants to eat. I just, my kid's, she picky as hell, right? So I got to figure out what she wants to eat too. She's going to be, I want pizza. I'm like, well, you done had pizza 3 nights in a row. It ain't going to work. Like, what sounds good? So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially with colubrids, I find it hard to justify like the need to do the assist feeds or the force feeds with the tails or even pinkies. Like they're just such small animals. With a python, I could see it maybe because they hatch out a little bit bigger. Like I've got my hands on ball python hatchlings now. Like I know how they come out. That makes a little more sense, but a tiny, tiny little colubrid, man, it's like you're putting a lot of stress on that animal.
I've done it. I've had to do it. I've gotten to the point in the past where I wasn't playing. I wasn't ready. I hadn't stacked the deck. I didn't have Scoloporus on tap, some spiny lizards. I didn't have Coleonyx in the freezer. And I was producing stuff, or I was buying stuff, not eating. That's one thing you find a lot with Mexicana stuff. People sell them not eating. It is what it is, right? Like I want that species. I had some what is that? Heterodon Kendleri. I had some Mexican hognose.
Okay.
Mexican hognose are about as bad as Alterna. And I got a trio from a buddy, and he sent them to me right out of the egg, like because I guess hognose shed like 35 seconds after they're born, and he just sent them to me right after they shed. And he's like, "Hey man, they're not eating." I was like, "Yes sir, I get it." And dude, I could not figure them things out. I could not.
Really?
It turns out what it was that actually got them eating pissed me off. I'll tell you that in a sec. But I tailed him. I tailed him for 2 months, right? And
Okay.
I don't want him to die. This was 6 years ago, 7 years. Hell, those snakes have already bred, and their babies might have bred. I sent those to Ryan Cox. Ryan Cox sent
Wow.
those to Dr. Loftman has them now. That trio of hogs, they're probably pretty good size. They produce eggs a couple times. But them little shits, dude, I was tailing them, and you're talking about a snake that's not this big.
Yeah, and hogs are tiny. Yeah.
They're tiny, and the Mexican hognose are real tiny.
Okay.
Them little shits, dude. They started eating on tuna juice.
Tuna juice.
Tuna
Interesting.
juice, frozen thawed pinky, washed in Dawn soap. I don't know what it is. If you're washing your pinkies, wash it in blue Dawn soap, and tuna juice. And then they couldn't stop it, man. And once they started eating, they're ripping. Alternative the same way. Once they're eating consistently, you can't, dude. They'll come flying out the tub wanting to eat if you don't feed them enough.
Right. Gotcha. Awesome. I had another question in the chat here. I guess we'll transition into corns a little bit. DGB asks, speaking of localities, opinion on red Zeppelin corn snakes, locality Amel Okatee. Just got a baby pair. Can't wait to back cross them to locality Okatees and each other.
Yeah. So the red Zeppelin line is kind of a really neat story about that. I have a pair of red Zeps from Craig Trumbauer, actually. Got them in Daytona a couple years ago.
Nice.
Red Zeps were an actual albino that was produced from an Okatee Hunt Club wild-caught animal. So, yes, we have albinos. Yes, we do have reverse Okatees, which is albino Okatee phenotype, right? So in corn snakes, there's a bunch of different weird things that happen with morphs and phenotypes that are derivative of localities.
Okay.
We have Miami corn snakes that have never been to Miami, right? We have Okatee phase corn snakes that have never been to South Carolina. But the red Zep line is derivative of only locality animals. And so they've actually taken Phoenix corns, which are kind of cool. Phoenix corns are locality sun-kissed. Oh, man, my brain just farted. Locality sun-kissed bred to locality albino Okatees to make a sun-kissed, which would be I host a corn snake podcast. I feel like an idiot right now. Anyways,
dude, I didn't know corns. Right? I didn't know corns went that deep. To be honest, I just knew there's a ton of recessives, and I knew there's a bunch of newer stuff that's come about in the last couple of years. Like the most hands-on I have with corns, back at that old pet shop job I had, we used to breed a normal to an albino visually. And we would pop out Anneries, Snows, Albinos, Motleys, and a whole combination of all those things. And it was the best thing in the world because you just hatch out all these different colors in one clutch.
The special thing about corn snakes is there's a few different camps. There's a couple guys like Chris Montross and Joe Peck, and even Jake Bratz. I think he has a couple of Blades County Anneries now. And I have some Okatee snakes from him. But you got a group of guys that are like, hey, let's only work with locality stuff. And the phenotypes you can get out of just locality animals. You got Justin Smith with his Lady Island stuff. You got some of the North Carolina God damn it, my brain. North Carolina foothills corns, which are the Cleveland counties. You've got some of your Dade County stuff, your Miami, your Hendry County. Oh man, some of your like stuff that happens in Tallahassee. Tallahassee. There you go. I forgot the right way to say that one. But in the Tallahassee area, in the Panhandle of Florida, you got some absolutely beautiful phenotypes. You got some awesome stuff in like Georgia. Can't touch those. Kentucky, I think, even has some corn snakes. And oh my gosh, this species is so diverse. And the reason for that, right? Like I work with a lot of Emery stuff, and a lot of Emery stuff is kind of similar in the way it looks, with the exception of size and disposition. But with the Gutata stuff, and again, we're just talking about locality animals.
Yeah.
That range is so big, and it has so many different colors in its normal phenotype. You got these reds, you got these yellows, you got these derivatives of the two. So you get pinks, you get kind of like lavender colors. You got this gray base. Now, do whatever you want with that, right? Evolution already did it for us. So I've got stuff from North Carolina that's 2.5, 3 foot long at 4 years old. That's gray with a little sparkle of gold and reds. And then I've got Okatee stuff that's 10, 3.5, 4 foot long, and it's got these deep blacks with these rich
Blacks
oranges
and the
then
reds.
Then you go south, you start getting some big corn snakes in the middle of Florida, right? Like you get some of the like 4.5, 5 footers that have this like super saturated red and these deep colors, and you haven't even touched them, right? And now you take 30, I think it's 33 or 34 different morphs to start combining them, and oh man, and then the lineage, right? Like all this stuff is documented, and you got people like Sarah Moore, who does she's got a YouTube channel. I think it's Sarah Snake Shop, yeah, something like that. But she's written books. She's written literal books just on phenotypes and combinations, and localities and different morphs. She has 800 million videos. We had her on the podcast. You got people like that just nerd out on all these different just base morphs and the combinations of the morphs.
Yeah.
I'm a Colubrid guy, right?
Yeah.
People trash talk ball pythons all the time. I say, hold on, wait a minute, watch your mouth, right? Like, because one, that's the Tiger Woods of reptiles, right? The things that we have in this hobby would not exist if it was not for ball pythons. So
no, 100%.
So people need to watch their tone when they're talking, right? You better be respectful. Second thing is, I get it, right? Like you have all these different morphs and combinations. I don't know them, but it's not my prerogative to know them. But I respect it. I love it. I'm like, look, you're doing the same thing as me, right? Yours eats less, mine shits more. Yours costs more, mine's kind of prettier. It is what it is.
Yep.
But dude, we all need to we all need to dab up, get together, and party. But yeah, dude, the corn snake, the pantheon of corn snake morphs and localities is just wonderful. It's awesome.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I guess I need to learn a little bit more about that because that's cool. And I see some of these nice corn snake morphs, and you have some posted too, and I'm like, damn, like that's pretty. I'm like, if I had space, I'd consider investing into it, but I'm too far deep on Texas rats. I'm too far deep on Texas rats.
Hey, Texas rats,
which you might need to catch me some wild stuff. You're right there, man.
I sent some to talk to Billy Hunt. I had some nasty snakes. We called them American Beauties, and you got to. I wish I had a picture I could post up right now. You have never seen a Texas rat that looked like these. So they were from Blunser, Texas, and we found a pair on FM 666. Can't make that up. And dude, you are talking about gold and red and sharp blacks and whites. And these gray heads, they look like a 6-foot bear eye. And brother, they were nasty. I mean, I'm talking, they're gonna bite you and flick poop in your bite. I was all sipped up on a Snakes and Stogies podcast. If you go back and listen, and I pull them out, and the male's all biting me, and I've got blood dripping off my hand, and I got a cigar hanging out of my mouth. Look at these things. But dude, Texas rats are rad. Linhemeri are damn good species. Get up there in the Mineral Wells area, because I don't know if you ever heard this, and we talk about this all the time. Texas is actually 2.5 times the size of Australia, right? So think about that. We've got one species of obsoleta here, but yeah. So like you can have Linhemeri from down where I'm at. We find Texas rats here, and they have these sharp colors. They kind of have that bear eye look to them. They're a little bit bigger. You get a little bit north, they start getting a little bit darker. You get way north, they get real dark, but that's where your leucistic found. So in the Mineral Wells area,
Mineral Wells, yep.
Yeah, you can find locality leucistics.
Yeah,
I sent some to Jake.
Yeah, Jake showed me them. He showed me them. Yeah, those are cool. I actually I made a post about it this week. So I picked up in Orlando last week, $35 snake. I could not say no. This beautiful, actually, it's not all that much right now because it's a baby still and it still hasn't gotten those colors. But I saw it. I'm like, this looks different. And then he showed me the parent and then other animals in the lineage and these red Texas rats. I'll have to send you the pictures afterwards. dude, and this baby, and the camera's not picking it up too well, but all these pinks and red colors coming through, I'm like, holy shit, I have to incorporate this. And I work with a lot of the scalar stuff, so I do the morphs. I don't really have any locality specific on the Texas rats, just because never really seen them. You don't see it a lot in the hobby. So I kind of started with the scalar stuff, and I work a lot with Kevin Sheehan, if you know him, from Offspring. But
heard the name,
yeah. So yeah, I mean that's what I'm working with, but I'd definitely be into having some locality type projects and seeing what I could do with that.
I'll let you know. I may be able to grab more of those ones that Jake has. My buddy here, local, breeds them.
Oh, awesome!
That's a cool locality, right? Like it's real different. And also we do come across them, so I'll let you know. Keep in touch with you, man. That'd be cool.
Cool. Yeah. All right, cool. We talked a lot about a lot of different stuff, and then some questions I like to ask people. Getting into like all other reptiles. So you had mentioned the geckos. Obviously, you still keep a few different species of geckos. I saw the leopards, and you still have some of the New Caledonian stuff, right?
Oh yeah. So leopards are a new thing. That was my kid, right?
Right.
Like, we were at a show, and she helps me vent sometimes. She's like, "Dad, what's that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a gecko." She was like, "Let's go." And I was like, "Let's go, baby." Right. And then I got 30, right? And then I produced 30, and then now I've got 1 million. So because that addiction works. But yeah, I still got New Caledonia stuff. I'm gonna be not breeding any of those this year. But Gargs,
gotcha.
I got Gargs. People want Gargs. I got Gargs. No Leachies this year. I produced a couple, but not gonna be breeding any next year. Again, not because I don't love them. My boy Shrek, I've had him for 16 years. He's a monster. Big old GT cross. Leachy, he's
nice.
He has officially killed a female. He's beat up 2 or 3,
oh
but
shit.
this year he decided to actually kill her, which was super cool. It was an absolute mess. Leachies are tough. Ain't nothing,
I know they're savages.
There's nothing harder to breed than a Leachy that I've worked with yet, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure. I know there's tough stuff out there. God, the fighting, the way, the things you got to do to keep them from fighting, but also, Shrek's like the coolest animal in the world. Like, I pull him out of his enclosure, and he's just like chilling on my shoulder. I paint a lot. I'm real hyper, so I need to have something that calms me down. And I'll be like sitting, chilling, painting, and I'll put him up on my chair, and he'll just be like chilling, looking around.
Nice.
Because I'm still that little kid, right? Like, I'm still going to get my snakes and geckos out and play with them.
Awesome.
I think the second you lose that, you can't just take the snake out and just be like, enjoy it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yep.
Maybe you're doing this for the wrong reason. If it was, if it's about the money, I also get that. Like, there's lots of people out there. My homie Eric Westmoreland, he's full time. He went full time, I think, last year. He does a lot of corn snakes, stuff like that. And we've talked to him about it. We've talked about the struggles of going full time. Talked about the importance of going full time. The guy, when I talked about these snakes, he's still just, oh man, look at this one, right? Oh man, I gotta keep this one. You gotta keep that drive up. Also, I don't have any problem with people getting out of this hobby, right? You've been doing this for 10 years, been doing this for 5 years, been doing this for a year. You had maybe different expectations. You thought it was going a different direction. Maybe financially you weren't ready for it. You weren't ready to have those babies. People get out of the hobby too. It doesn't mean you didn't love these things, but you just got to know your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I feel like you were about to ask me a question about geckos and I didn't answer it.
No. You answered. I was gonna ask, do you have any other like oddball species that aren't colubrids besides the geckos?
Yeah. So it would still be geckos.
Or maybe not oddball, but yeah.
I still keep a large suite of Coleonyx. So I have Coleonyx mitratus. This is still in the gecko realm.
Okay.
I have a Coleonyx mitratus that's been in my office at work for 9 years now. I have brevis and vertebralis. Other than that, no. I have kept and bred a few other species. Goniosaurus are one. I've gotten in and out of Goniosaurus 3 times now. I have bred great-great-grandchildren of my original Goniosaurus pair, which is kind of cool. And that's the Chinese cave geckos.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just like super awesome. And then like I'm like,
those animals they're beautiful. I love the Chinese cave geckos. They're great.
Easy peasy. Like that's like the easiest.
Really?
Dude, room temp. Do a bit of norms. Keep them relatively humid. Where you're at, you're fine.
Yeah.
The problem is, dude, you're never gonna see them, and they don't want to be messed with. Like they're just like that one animal that's like
Gotcha.
every time you mess with it, you're stressing it out, and you never see it outside of its little hide box. So it is, right? Like we're not gonna sit here and fault the species, but it's so. And that's one of the reasons I get out of that species, and then I see them again, and I'm like, oh, I need those again. So. Yeah, Coleonyx are a treat. I talked for 3 or so hours on Coleonyx on Bill Bradley's show. I love Coleonyx. That's the all the banded geckos.
Okay.
All your New Caledonia stuff's cool. I've talked about for 10 years trying to get a Rhacodactylus terracurhynchus and Terraciosophallus, and those are the live-bearing rough-snouted geckos from New Caledonia. And every time I tried to get them, I almost had a pair of the lesser rough-snouted. And every time it kind of came up, God, that's a $6,000 lizard. I don't know, man. It's tough.
Yeah.
So no. But other than that, no. No other non colubrid or non gecko, right? Geckopia, right?
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. And then, what's the future kind of looking like for you with Badlands Herpetoculture? Is there any species you're looking to add? What's like maybe the next 5 years looking like, if you could go into that?
I was lucky enough this year, I got a pair of Pityophis pumilus, which are the smallest species of Pityophis. They're a tiny little species of gopher snake. They come from, I'm going to say this wrong. They're the Catalina Island gopher. It's not. They come from. They're endemic to. They're insular, right? They're from an island, and they're tiny, dude. They're the smallest species of Pityophis. So hopefully getting those up to size. They're
nice.
They're really easy. So I'm kind of scared, right? Like I'm like, if these are so easy, why are they not a little bit more hobby centric? What am I going to do over the next 5 years? I'm this year. I'm going to be producing mostly king snakes and a couple different Santa Cruz Montrose, my man's. Also, Kris Montrose, what a beast! What an amazing guy in the hobby. I have so many snakes that I have got from him. I've said to Jake, I still those Cleveland County red rats. Shout out red rats, not corn snakes, for my man's. Kris Montrose is another person that I've met in this hobby that has just blown me away with his attitude, his love, his passion, his knowledge. Oh man, he's so thick.
Yeah, I've been following him. I've been following him on Facebook for years, and I could definitely see that. Just super passionate about that the locality stuff, and again, that's only because I've been watching him for so long, and he just continues to love it and breed it. So yeah.
Dude, I met that guy in person. Not this. I hung out with him this year, but I met him in 2022. My first time going to Daytona, and then talked to the dude for 45 minutes about Sambos. Right? Didn't even talk about Colubrid, which he's a wealth of knowledge. He's bred white-lip pythons. He loves the dirt snakes like I love dirt snakes.
Yeah.
But what amazing. Anyway, I tangentialized this conversation. But yeah,
it's all good.
The future is going to be a lot of love and a lot of passion, right? I don't know if I'm going to produce a bunch of snakes. I don't know if I'm going to add a bunch of snakes, but I'm going to spend as much time as I have humanly possible talking about my love and how other people can love these animals the same way I do. So much of my heart goes to the Herpetoculture Network group that I've been so blessed to be a part of. So much of my heart goes to people like you. It goes to people like
Thanks,
Clint,
man.
Doc, and Matt. All these people that are coming in and making these podcasts that are about kind of my little sect of it, but doing it in the right way. You're bringing on great people, but you're bringing on passionate people. And we saw this for so many years. The gecko hobby for years, Gecko Nation Radio. You go back 15, 20 years. Some Borrelia Python Radio, right? A lot of these guys that have been doing this, they're the grandfathers of this. Joe Phelan, who's still a buddy of mine, that did a podcast from the ground up and had a bunch of different guests on. But then you got the people that stuck with it, right? The Justin Smiths, it's my excitement, my love is to still be a part of this, and to that's what the next 5 years looks like, is more of this. And hopefully 5 more years to listen to your podcast, right? You're gonna keep talking about colubrids, keep having colubrid nerds on. Production wise, yeah, I bet I'm gonna be producing some Pitchophis. I bet I'm gonna have some Lampropeltis. I bet I'm gonna have some Pantherophis for you. I'm gonna be doing a lot of embryi stuff. I got a lot of like special projects. I proved out a new morph this year. I've got a morphed Pitchophis that I'm trying to prove out next year. There's a lot of little things that are just going to be special to me, and my name may not be on a lot of it, and I'm not worried about that. I'm probably not going to post a lot on social media. I'm probably not going to have a lot on Morph Market, but I'm going to get these animals in the right people's hands, and I'm going to say the right words about them that hopefully get them somewhere.
Yeah, no, and back to what you were saying, with I appreciate. The education in this hobby is so important. I've talked about this with other people. It's just like I wanted to bring this show to teach, because I'm heavy in the ball python community. Like I'm all up in it. I'm here to show the ball python people what they're missing out on species wise, like all this stuff, because people don't know they exist. Besides seeing a corn snake in a deli cup at a show table, like Kris is saying in the chat, that's all they really know about colubrids. And I just want to spread that love and these species and bring people on like you who keep stuff that, I didn't even know, how deep Pitchophis got in terms of all these subspecies. Like I'm learning as much as the next person. So
honestly, I wish I could grab every ball python guy, and be like, look, I understand the complexity of what you're doing. I understand the intricacies of what you're doing, because a lot of people don't see, people outside the ball python community do not see the intricacies of the ball python.
And I say ball python, by the way, but I mean like boas and like other python species as well. Just people that kind of just write off colubrids because they're just a colubrid.
Yeah, because in 2003. Like I said, Tiger Woods came in and he was swinging ball pythons, and it was glamorized, right? So like your Burmese pythons, your reticulated pythons. We see a lot of social media that glamorize reticulated pythons.
Yep.
Whether it's the right way or the wrong way to be doing it, it does. Your carpet pythons are kind of like the nasty little rockers, right? Like the little metalheads or the carpet python guys, and it, dude. Like the carpet python guys are all just. And then you got the psychopaths that do green tree pythons, and they're always like, every green tree python, dude. I'm gonna say this out loud. I'm saying it on air. Every green tree python guy is a sneakerhead, right? Tell me I'm wrong. I don't know why, but like
I don't know. Are they?
I don't know what it is, but like every time I meet a green tree python guy, other than Justin Smith, who's did chondrocast and all that, but they're always sneakerheads. I don't know. It's kind of fun. I'm a sneakerhead, right? But I'm always like, hey, there's this stuff over here. They're like, yo, but I do Nike Jordan 1s, only high tops. I have 732 pairs, bro. That's it. I only do green tree pythons. It's like, spread them wings, diversify them bonds. But yeah, like every python guy, every guy that's into boas are amazing.
Yeah,
boas are just great. Get a San Diego gopher snake, right? Just get one, right? You get yourself one. Get an Applegate albino. Right, watch that snake go from a baby to an adult. It's gonna be about 4 foot, right? It's not gonna be a big snake. It's gonna be a heavy body snake. It's gonna deal with the higher temperatures a little bit easier, right? Like it's one of those snakes that's still gonna be chill at 84 degrees. Doesn't have to be at 80. And you know what? It's gonna fit your build. Not every snake. I'm just saying, not every snake needs to be $500 to $1,000. You may be able to find something in that $100 $200 range that you're gonna enjoy just as much. That's kind of That's that thing. It's diversify those bonds, man. Try different stuff. And if it doesn't work, don't keep it. You didn't do something wrong, right? Like you're not breaking the rules by saying it's not for you.
Yep. Yeah. And you kind of went into one of the last questions I leave on is like, what's your message to, those kind of keepers that just haven't had an open mind that like maybe want to get into something for once? Get into something like a Pitchophis.
Yeah, one of the things I would say, this generation, maybe my generation even, has been a little jaded by social media. We're jaded by that instant gratification, right? It's right there. Boom, I have it. I know. I Googled it once, and it's right here. Um, do a little bit of, go a little deeper. Go back to kingsnake.com. I say this all the time. Those forums are all archived. These guys did this for 50, 60 years, right? They did this for 40 years before you were born, man. Like, they put this on the internet. They put this into writing so that you could do it too. Yes, it's going to be a little bit harder to find because we kind of did have this big move into the boas and the pythons.
Yeah.
But it exists. But also, what I mean, there's also that, man. I'm one of those people that's like, it's also okay if you don't. You don't have to love this. You don't have to get into this. But let's all work together at it, right? Like, you don't have to love what I'm doing, but let's do it together, right? If we all work together, if we all, there's always attitudes, there's always BS, there's always one guy that thinks he's better than everybody else. I do this the best. Nobody else can do this as good as me. Nobody else is ever gonna. And then they're gonna go out and they're gonna tell the people that are not doing it as good as them that they're not as good. You're not as good as me. You don't have as many views as me. You ain't got the listens. Who even are you? And man, is that the way that this community builds? Remember, we're this little group of people that keep snakes in boxes, right?
Yeah.
We have geckos in little glass terrariums. What if we all got together? What if we all stood up? And when Florida's trying to make, I said I wasn't talking about politics, but when Florida's trying to make legislation that's going to keep you from having your ball pythons, what if we all stood up together? What if the crested gecko people jumped in and said, you know what? I got your back, ball python people. You know what I mean? It'd be like if all the music genres came together, and well, we all like Taylor Swift. I guess we got that right. But if we could all band together, we could all keep this community with love, with passion, with excitement. It's only gonna grow. It only gets better. The shows only get bigger. There's only more money in your pocket when you hatch out some of these little turd snakes, right? Like, attitudes, they exist no matter what you do. Competitivism, I don't know. There's probably a word there that I don't know. That exists no matter what you do, right? I've done competitive athletic things. I've done competitive racing, 15 years of racing. I kickbox. I did all kinds of competitive things. But one of the things that was the best in my competitive life was the love that is still shared, the passion of that thing. And that's one thing that sucks about reptiles is it's so diversified. Now, I'm a crested gecko guy. I'm a leopard gecko guy. I'm a girl, or I'm a ball python girl. I'm a carpet python guy. Now, I ain't worried about them. I ain't worried about them colubrids. I'm a colubrid guy. Oh, we don't like ball pythons. Ball pythons suck. It's like, if we all were just
and that goes both ways too. As much as I say whatever about ball python people, then ball python people, like there's this whole back and forth. It's like why? It's like why don't? Yes, I get colubrid people may not like ball python people because some people are only in it for the money, and I 100% agree. By the way, I say it all the time. I think there's a ton of fake ass people that aren't really passionate about the animals, but it is what it is. But I don't think that we should just be writing off an entire group of these people in our hobby because they keep a certain species. Like, it's so stupid when I say it out loud. It sounds so dumb. So yeah, which this whole conversation is segueing into my last question is like where we're at in the hobby today. Like, what's your outlook on it? Is we need to come together a little bit more, in my opinion.
God, is it good? I've made friends across the planet. I know people in Europe. I know people in Australia, and this is that other side of social media, right? It's the other side of these podcasts. I've gotten to talk to people in this hobby. I've gotten to rub shoulders, give a hug to Craig Trumbauer and Tony Dungara. I've gotten to sit and talk to Carol Huddleston. These are corn snake people, but at the same time, I've gotten to rap out with Casey Cannon until 4 a.m. And this dude breeds stuff that people don't even know how to say the scientific name of. I've gotten to meet people like Billy Hunt, people like you that maybe weren't colubrid people but are becoming Colubrid curious. You know, and I am scratching the surface on the names, and thankful to social media, thankful to the digital age that we have now, because it feels a lot more like a family. The problem is sometimes it does feel like families arguing about the same thing, right? Like we're all bitching about the same stuff. Like, stop trying to take our snakes away from us. Stop trying to
Yeah.
make it harder to ship my snakes. Stop trying to make it harder for me to receive my snakes. Stop making feeders cost more money, right? Like we're all saying the same thing.
Yep.
And it's funny. It's so funny because like I have a buddy, Seth, who's in Texas, and he breeds fat tail geckos. He is like the premier fat tail gecko breeder, African fat tail
Okay.
breeder, like almost in the world, right? The dude has worked first. This is the guy, right? And then I have people like Carl Vargas, who's a mentor of mine for 20 years, who's like the lychee guy. And then I know people like John Lasseter, who's like the Alterna, actually he's the Mex-Mex guy, right? He has his own line of Mex-Mex that people go oogle doogles over. And like, we're all sitting here and we're like, damn, 23 kind of rough, huh, homie? You know what I mean? And ball python people be saying the same thing, carbon python people. And it's like, all right, well, why don't we work together and say, hey, what about this species? Or we work together to promote the shows. Or we work together to promote the ways to buy these animals. If we all work together, this year kind of sucked for everybody as far as sales, but if we all work together, maybe it would have been better, right? Take a note. And this is a segue. I'm a little segue kind of person. Take a note from the venomous group, right? The guys that keep and breed venomous reptiles. These are the most dedicated group of keepers out there, because they're not in it for the money, they're in it for the passion. Every single one of them will tell you how much they love a collared lizard as much as they love a spinning cobra, right? Like, and I don't know much on the venomous group, but there's good podcasts out there to listen to for you listen to Venom Exchange Radio. It's Phil Wolf, the gentleman that's in your area. But like, take a note from that. Like, dude, these guys aren't even selling these animals for the most part, right? Like they can't. They're purely passion driven. And what if we mirrored that across the board with everything, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I get all worked up about it. I'm like, you know, it's, you know, and I try to be this positive person. Like, more love, right?
Yeah.
More getting together. Like, look, it's cool. Like, I know we all went through that struggle. We all did it together, right? We all had our hard times when we were kids. Hell, some of us are going through hard times now. We don't know what any one person's going through, right? Like, we don't know what any one individual is seeing on a daily basis. But we can still be positive towards what they're doing. Unless you're doing things shitty or wrong, right? Like you already said, like the people that get it for the money, the people that are keeping like crap, the people, like, you know, these people get ousted, right? Like, hopefully they do. Or they don't have the patience. They don't have the patience to put in to get their tenure, to put their 5 years in, to put their 10 years in, to put their 15 years in. Sometimes time is the plague on their lives, right? They weren't able to do it quickly, so that they deteriorate through just generalized time. So sometimes you have to wait for those bright candles to just go out. But yeah, if we just work together and spread that love, like, we're good.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, man. All right. So it's been about an hour and 50 minutes. Do you have anything else to add that maybe we didn't touch on? Anything else you want to talk about in particular?
We didn't even talk about the embryo complex. I hope
we did not.
So there's a little group of snakes, right? And they just don't get any love. And right now they're broken down in 3 species. The Lord already told me there's 4, but we're breaking it down to 3. That's Pantherophis embryi. So we have Pantherophis embryi, which is the West Texas, Great Plains rat snake. We have Pantherophis embryi slewinskii, which is the Slewinskii rat snake, also known as Castania corn snake, or not Castania, Castaci corn snake, excuse me. And then there's thorn scrub rat, which is the Pitchophis embryi mealomorum, or Pantherophis embryi mealomorum, excuse me. I just want everybody to spend a little bit more time looking at these animals. They're great. It's kind of funny. I couldn't imagine what would happen if somebody found a new morph in ball pythons, right? If I came out and I said, look, here is a morph that I can prove out that is either co-dominant or line bred or something, but it came from wild-caught animals, and I held up a ball python that was an F1, right, and it had this crazy pattern on it, and the ball python people would be like, oh my God, here's $1 million, right? Like, I did that with Embryi this year, and I was so proud of it. And a lot of people reached out to me, and I felt so much love from the community from this. But it was so funny that I reached out to people and was like, look, I did this. I proved out this little thing. And I'm not, maybe this is me being on my little pedestal, right? Like, you know, that little meme where there's like a guy in first, second, and then there's like the guy that's like drinking and he's like all the way down the line. And it's like proved out an Embryi morph. That's me right now. But I wish people would spend a little bit more time, invest a little bit more time in some species they maybe don't know as much about. Because there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to see. There's a lot to experience. And there's nothing wrong with experiencing something a little different in your collection. This isn't a sales pitch. I didn't sell any of these animals. I actually gave them all away because I didn't want to sell them. I'm not going to be selling them because there's still work to be done with it. I don't have anything to prove.
Gotcha.
But there's species out there, and I'm just using the Embryi complex as an example. You know, Chris Montross has produced some Louisiana Sawinskii that are just gorgeous. I think he's even produced some Millimorum in the past. But, you know, I've got some Alpine Embryi that I'm working on possibly proving another thing out. And it's like, look, there's a lot of neat things happening in this country in species that you didn't even know existed, right? And so give a little bit of love to that. And this is probably more of a PSA for the Colubrid guys, right? Like, you know, maybe the ball python guy doesn't nerd out on Great Plains rat snakes, but yeah, that'd be my little thing we didn't talk about that I could talk about for about 4.5 more hours and get fussy. But yeah.
No, I gotcha. That's awesome because I always feel like even Texas rats, like I recently, which I've talked to Billy about, I recently wrote something for the Herpetoculture magazine, and I called Texas rats the forgotten Pantherophis, which maybe, you know, some people won't like, but like, you know, people think they're just these ugly snakes and like they're $35 animals that no one cares about, but I really love them, and I'm working with some cool stuff on them. I think, at least.
Absolutely. No, dude, and as somebody who's kept them, who finds them, they're not ugly. They're again, and not pooping on ball pythons, but like, dude, take like an adult Texas rat and just hold it next to a ball python to a 7-year-old and say which one's prettier, and they're gonna probably say the Texas rat, right? Like, there's a lot there. There's a lot of colors. You know, there's a lot of there's every locality has different colors. You could also do them solid white, which is cool as hell, right? Like leucistic.
And I have quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, leucistic Texas rats are badass. And as babies, they do the absolute coolest defensive posture, right? They just, the entire body just comes up and
they just S up at you.
And you like scaleless? Dude, everybody talks about scaleless corn snakes. First off, scaleless corn snakes, yes, they're cool, but they're not corn snakes. They're hybrids. Scaleless was found originally in, I believe, France or Italy. I forget what it is, in Embryi, right? There are no scaleless Embryi because the people that produce those produce them from what's called root beer corns, which is a Embryi cutatus hybrid, right? So we call those root beer corns in the hobby. It gets muddled in, but that entire gene, that entire recessive gene was taken from a hybridized animal, which is fine. Like, right, in hobby corn snakes, you talk about hobby corn's cool. But, dude, you want to see a badass scaleless animal? If you're into scaleless, Texas rats. Dude, scaleless Texas rats are so cool looking.
I got a collection full of them.
Yeah, I didn't even know you had any, dude. They're so.
Oh yeah. No, that's what I bred. This clutch I produced this year was all scaleless Lucy's and some of the best normal scaleless. They're also double het Texas rat snakes I've ever seen. So, they're just fantastic animals.
Dude, they're so red and burnt orange and.
If you go on my page later and look for a couple of them, I think they're some of the best ones. Me and Kevin have produced, in my opinion, some of the best. Matt as well. Like, just some beautiful, beautiful animals. So underrated, and I don't get it.
And why? Why are people? I don't get it. You're right. I don't get it. Why are people not lit up about these? I get excited. Maybe
Well,
someday I'm gonna
that's what I'm doing. That's where my education comes in. I started doing some local shows, and I only have scaleless leucistics for sale. Unfortunately, I don't have normal scalers to show off from that clutch because I held the 1.1 back.
nice.
But yeah, they're just amazing, and I've been trying to educate people about them. And once it's harder with the scaleless Lucy's because of the price point, but once you have some decent looking scaleless on the table and you're able to show people like, hey, it's a relatively inexpensive snake, can be a great pet and like beautiful animal. That's where it catches new people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like they breed pretty easy, right?
Oh
They
yeah,
eat right off the rip, right? Like they're really easy to get going.
yeah,
My experience in Obsoleta, I have noticed that sometimes they like live, right? Like sometimes they want live, but they eat mice
yeah,
in the real world, right? Like we're only trying to feed them what they actually eat, right? We're not trying to. It's not like Alterna, which I understand they are difficult, but we're trying to feed them mice in a world where they don't eat mice, right? Like they don't. There aren't little pinkies in a deli cup.
yeah.
But dude, the whole I am a fan of the whole Obsoleta complex. I have moved out of the Obsoleta complex. It's not because I don't love it. It's because I love other things maybe more. And that's probably not even true, right? Like I'm sitting here saying this, and I'm like, man, do I really think that? Like, or did I just did I consolidate space? What did I do there? Like, and Obsoleta will be back in my collection no matter what.
Yeah.
But dude, I've thought about getting scale. I'm the corn snake guy, right, dude? I talk to people, and I'm like a corn snake dude, right? Which is funny because I have less corn snakes than I do almost anything else. But I'm passionate about it, right? And I want more people to know about it. And I'm like, man, I'm not gonna get scaleless corn snakes. But man, there's been a few times where I was like, man, these scaleless Texas rats are bad, dude.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, scaleless anery Texas rats are better than scaleless anery corns.
That's the other
hands down.
Texas rat. There's also a lavender gene in Texas rats, right?
Yes, there's apparently like a lavender albino,
like
if that's what you're.
Albino, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Not something I have, but I know some people do. I have a scaleless anery here from Kevin, and that was the male from that made these babies. So everything I hit is head anery, and hopefully I have a shot at some visuals this year. So that should be fun.
Dude, and lavenders are bad too. Oh man, dude, yeah, right. What? So now I need Texas rats, right? Like you done now. You need Pinchophus, right? And I need some Texas rats.
You're right. Yeah.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
It's so, and also
it's
that's
tough.
another thing. You being a new upcoming podcast, you're on podcast number 6. You've been consistent with it. Congratulations on that too. It's tough.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
it. A lot of podcasts don't make. It's kind of funny. A lot of podcasts don't make it to episode 6. A lot of podcasts don't make it to episode 3. Some don't make it to episode 2. Cornstars almost didn't make it to episode 2. I was not originally a host on it.
Okay.
But you're doing good. You're putting the right word out there. You're asking the right questions. But you're also doing the Lord's work, man. You're talking about species that people ain't out there working with. You're going to get people hyped on it. You're also going to have people on this podcast talk about stuff, and you're going to want to add them. It's going to be tough, dude. You're going to get all excited. Oh man,
Oh, maybe Billy already has me. I'm getting a rhino rat early next year.
Rhino rats are bad.
I'm getting one. There's no way I'm not getting one. So.
Do you have any beauties?
No.
Get some Chinese beauties, man. They're
fun. Dude, when I have more space, there's gonna be a whole section for like just Asian stuff.
Yeah, space.
I live at home with my parents still, so everything is like very confined. I'm in my garage here, so everything's behind me. I'm 23.
Oh God, you're a baby. Oh man, you got so much time to do this. Yeah, but dude, the space and time. Right, I built this house 6 years ago. We moved in. I was lucky. I was able to build a room dedicated to reptiles. It wasn't enough.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I got a 4-car garage. Right, I'm about to make that a 3-car garage. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. We're all struggling for space. You're gonna be struggling for time too. Maybe you get in a relationship. Maybe you get a family. you could be looking for time too. Work may get more difficult. It's a balance. It's a balance of space, time, and other hobbies. I got a lot of other hobbies. I bet you got other hobbies too. You got other stuff you like to do. It's a balance. You find that balance in life, and nothing feels better than when you feel that it's like drinking that cold water in the morning. You know what I mean? That maybe you went out with the boys, maybe you had a drink or so, maybe you did something, right? Maybe you went out, worked out hard the night before. Who knows what it was?
Yeah.
But you wake up, it's early morning, the sun ain't come up. You get that sip of that cold water. Oh God, and it's never out of the bottle, right? It's got to be on ice. It's got to be on ice.
Yes.
That feeling, that's what balance feels like. And there's somewhere in there where, because that feeling is that cold water is generating that balance in your life. Maybe you had some stress the day before. Maybe you did some things that were stressful on your body. But you found balance, and right there when you feel that cold. That's the same thing in life, being almost 40, having a kid, a wife. I've been with my wife for 20 years. Got a 7-year-old girl. I got a very demanding job. Sometimes I work 100 hours a week. But at some point, every couple weeks or every couple days, sometimes maybe every day, I get this feeling, and it feels like balance, and it's perfect. And there's nothing that I would ever strive for more than finding balance in my life, and that's. It's gonna be good, man. You're gonna keep working on what you're doing. You're gonna keep growing. You're gonna keep doing things. And keep striving for that feeling of balance, man. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. All right. Well, that seems like a good way to end tonight's show. Kris, this was absolutely fantastic. This has been, and I hate to say this because I've loved every episode, but this was definitely probably one of my favorite episodes so far. We went on a lot of tangents. We talked about a lot of shit, but
I talk a lot,
this has been great, and everyone I've had on, I absolutely would not mind having them on for round 2. So hopefully we could do that sometime in the future, whenever that may be. But yeah. So everyone in the chat, thank you so much. Give it up for Kris for a great show tonight. This was great. Kris, I'm going to throw you backstage. I'll kind of run the outro, and we'll talk right after I finish.
Dope, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, bro. Guys, that show, like I just said, that was great. A lot of really good conversations. A lot of cool species were talked about. If you are interested in anything, and I have to do it still, that was my bad for not oh, wait, I may have put it in. I don't know. Check the YouTube description. See if Kris's Instagram is in the description. I thought I forgot it, but I might have put it. Go give him a follow. Send him a message if you're interested in anything that he keeps or you want to find out about something. Go hit him up because he'll help you out, give you some information. Anyway, guys, as usual, all my social medias are below. Thank you so much for tuning into tonight's episode of the Colubrid Corruption Podcast. Make sure you hit that like button, especially if you're watching the replay. If you're here till the end, I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep this rolling, keep this podcast going once a week, 7:30s on Sundays. And guys, as always, this has been episode 6 of the Colubrid Corruption Podcast featuring Kris Painschab of Badlands Herpetoculture. Hope you all have a great weekend, great rest of your night. Peace out.